Well, a top United Nations expert says the international community is epically failing in its response to the war between Israel and Hamas. Joining us live now is the United Nations Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territory, Francesca Albanese. Francesca, thanks for your time this morning. There is a few points I just want to ask you about your speech yesterday. You linked Israel with potential genocide, which is a highly inflammatory allegation. What is your legal basis for such a claim?
Hi, thanks for having me. In international law, genocide is the intent to destroy a group, a national, racial, ethnic or religious group in whole or in part, and can be committed when there are acts of killing of people of the group or creating living conditions that make life of this group impossible or creating significant physical and mental harm to the people of this group, which is precisely what is happening in the Gaza Strip, where 11,000 people have been already killed, 5,000, almost 5,000 of them are children, and there are 3,000 people under the rubble as we speak.
Right.
And the living conditions in Gaza are unlivable. Even if hostilities cease now, it will be difficult to
I get
live there.
that. Sorry to interrupt you. I do get that. I'm just short for time. But just on this position of genocide, certainly there is intent to destroy Hamas, but there is none to physically destroy a whole national, racial, ethnic or religious group, which is, as you pointed out, the UN definition of genocide.
I respectfully dissent, because not only the cries and the statements that have been made by Israeli political and military leaders and supported by significant groups in the society are not to eradicate or destroy Hamas military capacity, are to flatten Gaza, to erase Gaza, to wipe out Gaza. And this is not
That's not what they're saying.
Gaza's military
the leadership is not saying that.
Well, yes, because one military leader says our goal is for destruction, not accuracy. I don't know if we read the same things, but
the destruction of Hamas.
Look, I mean, no, because again, even members of the parliament have been calling to flatten Gaza, to erase Gaza. It's not about Hamas military. But this is the incitement, this is the intent, which is critical. At the same time, what's happening on the ground is that almost 50% of the civilian infrastructure has been either destroyed or severely damaged and cannot be used to restore civil life. And 11,000 people, 1 out of 200 people in Gaza, have already been killed. So, I mean,
sure.
I don't want it to be reduced to semantics. These are people who deserve to live as much as others.
It's just a big term. Genocide is a big term, but we've got to move on. Is Hamas guilty of war crimes?
No, just one precision, because as you say, it's it's an important and very heavy, very loaded claim. Together with other special rapporteurs, I've warned against the risk of genocide for weeks now, because there is an obligation to prevent genocide in international community, and nothing has moved.
Is Hamas guilty of war crimes?
Of course. There is no question about that. Hamas has committed war crimes the moment it killed civilians, it targeted civilians, and it took civilian hostages. These are undisputable war crimes.
Yes. So, I mean, there is a saying, you get punched in the nose, you're not going to give a free lunch. So does Hamas get what's coming? This is not against Hamas. Those who are paying now, and these are the same ones who have been paying for the 5 previous wars. Hamas started this whole thing by launching the terror attack, as you just pointed out, was a war crime. So now it's getting its response, which Israel is entitled to.
What you're saying is very dangerous, because the people in Gaza had suffered 5 wars before this one, which had killed thousands of people, including 1,025 children. Does it mean that violence justifies violence? I strongly oppose that.
Okay,
no,
so Israel just lets it happen, does it?
The targeting of civilians. Excuse me?
So Israel just lets it happen and doesn't respond?
But of course not, but there are responses that needs to be given in line with international law. And these responses concern law enforcement and law and order. I'm not saying that Israel didn't have to do anything, but again, we are talking of a government which until a couple of months ago was saying, or 3 months ago was saying that Hamas was an asset and the Palestinian Authority was a liability. This was a disaster in the making, and we have been warned against it for decades now. I mean, human rights expert, and this was unfortunately not listened to.
Okay, you've seen the pictures that have emerged from Gaza over the past couple of days, military installations underneath children's hospitals. Should that be the case? Should they be allowed to have that there?
The thing is that there shouldn't have been a blockade for 16 years enabling Hamas to rule over Gaza as it has done against the will of the people and building whatever it has built. The situation was abnormal before the 6th of October. And again, this is where the human rights community has cried out for asking for an end of the blockade for 16 years now.
Just finally, do you support a two-state solution on the basis of pre-1967 borders?
I mean, as a human rights expert, I'm not supposed to have any opinion on the political solutions. I know that there is an international consensus to have a two-state solution, and this is what this is what I comment on. But a two-state solution cannot happen while Israel continues to maintain and build the colonies in the West Bank and East Jerusalem and continue to maintain a military presence in the occupied Palestinian territory, which has turned into a vehicle to allow the expansion of colonies.
Gaza's not occupied. It's ceded control. Did it not cede control in 2005?
No. What was eliminated, what was taken away in 2005 was the presence of the colonies. But Gaza has remained very much occupied, and not only because there is control of land, air. Can I finish? There is not just the control of air, land, electromagnetic space and sea space, but there is also a very tight control of what enters and what exits Gaza, including with the right that Israel has reserved itself to carry out preventive strikes, which have killed many in the Gaza Strip. No, Gaza is still occupied, and there is a wall-to-wall consensus in international community, including ICRC, which is normally quite restrained. I mean, everyone has concluded that Gaza is still occupied through modern methods of warfare, even if it doesn't have boots on the ground. There is effective control.
We are out of time. Francesca Albanese, appreciate your time, though. Thank you. We'll talk to you again later.